What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Instant Replay. This is your man, Big B, Brian Hanley with CC, Chris Claiborne. CC, what is going on, my man? How was your week?
Oh man, my week was pretty good. I'm obviously on the road. I'm here in the King of Prussia, PA, about 7 miles outside of Wayne, which is famous for its mountain lions and cougars. But on the road and traveling. But so far, a good week, with the exception of the surge pricing from Wendy's. I don't know if you've run into that.
I have not. What are we talking about here?
Man, so the 4 for $4 gone. The $5 biggie bag depends on when you get it. 10:30, 11 in the morning, it's $5. At noon, it's $7. 1 o'clock lunch rush, it's $8. So this surge pricing, they came out and apologized for it, but didn't remove it. So Wendy's is off my lunch menu from now on because I don't know what I'm paying.
It's kind of like that Wendy's, the Wendy's chili. Like, what are you getting with that? What kind of meat and the quality of meat are you getting with that Wendy's chili? Although I will say that Wendy's chili is delicious.
It's yesterday's hamburgers. We all know what it is.
At minimum yesterday.
Yep.
Minimum yesterday. Could have been last week. Either way, I'm getting it because I think it's delicious. So, man, a lot is going on, man. We got stuff. NFL free agency. We got TikTok and internet trends about 90s basketball today. Mike Tyson and Jake Paul, we're going to cover that and see what that kind of possibly debacle is going to be. Then lastly, little NIL. Is it good for college athletics? Is it good for sports? So let's start it off here. First things first, let's talk about Russ cooking in old Pittsburgh, baby. Oh, Russell Wilson is going to start cooking. The Steelers are instantly better. Now that we don't have to deal with baby hands Pickett, instantly better. And I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I know people are wanting to push back and people want to hate and people want to be upset, but the Steelers are better, man. They're just better with him.
Yeah. So when I first took a look at this, I didn't know what the Broncos were doing because I've always been a fan of Russ cooking. And I'm like, man, they kind of gave up on Russ. But then I looked. Okay, so let me talk about a couple things. And yes, the Steelers are better, but that's not saying much, at least at the QB position. Everybody Russ and below in QBR was shopping for a new QB as well. So he was kind of the breakover point. So I was surprised at that because I thought he just needed a chance. But he was 21st in QBR. Now, there's some other stats if you go by. He's 12th in completion percentage. But I don't know. How much does Russ have left in the tank? I do appreciate him sticking it to the Broncos by taking the league minimum. So from Pittsburgh. So Denver had to pick up the rest of that. I mean, nothing but a big FU on the way out the door, right? But I don't know. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank. I know he's now motivated with something to prove. But maybe his ridiculous requests for offices and stuff, maybe he'll come back down to earth.
Well, here's the thing about it. Russ didn't have a bad year last year. People have this misconception that he played horrible. That's not true at all. Not even remotely true. And I don't care if you're a Broncos fan or not. If you said he played horrible, you're lying to yourself because he didn't. Now, did it work? No, it didn't work. But think about these circumstances, Chris. If first of all, from day one, your head coach. So your immediate boss doesn't like you. He doesn't want you. He even made it public about how they were going to change things. He did not want Russ there. That's number one. Then number two, in the middle of the season, while you're playing okay, your owners come to you and say, you know what? We need you to restructure this contract that you just negotiated for yourself last year. Because in case you get hurt, we don't want to owe you any money. And if you don't do it, we're going to bench you. So just take that into perspective. When people start saying, oh, well, Russ is washed and he didn't do this, I'm like, hold on a second. Yeah. If your boss doesn't want you, your owners don't want you, how good are you actually going to be? And he still had a decent season.
I get that, but I think some of the Russ is washed narrative comes from the fact that his former team, you know, did a lot better with what I would consider a previously, revealed as a bum. Like, and so it's like, man, was Russ holding him back? Is Geno this good? I think some of that came into the whole narrative around Russ. Is you figured when he left out of there that they were going to have a hard fall off because he was still glue holding them together, and that wasn't true. So I think that's where a little bit of that he's done narrative comes from.
I mean, I can understand that, but here's the thing about it is the season that he had the previous year, he was god awful. There is
Yeah,
no ifs, ands, or buts about that. He was absolutely terrible the first year with the Broncos. You can't say that he wasn't. But the previous year in Seattle, he was good. The year before that in Seattle, he was
yeah,
phenomenal. And then last year, he was pretty good. And the thing about it is that the Steelers don't need him to be Patrick Mahomes. I mean, if he's on the Steelers this past season, they win 3 more football games. And then just period point
yeah.
blank, they win 3 more football games. That's all they need him to be is just be what he was this year.
It's interesting you bring that up, and somebody needs to fact check me on this one, but I believe he was just behind Mahomes in touchdowns with half as many picks too last year. I
Correct.
know, no comparison. I understand no comparison, but we don't need him to be Mahomes. But hey, easy there. Regular season, Russ, there was some cooking. At least there was at least some smoke in the kitchen.
That's all
Okay,
I'm saying. Russ is going
yeah,
to cook, man. He's going to cook with the Steelers. We
yeah,
got something. Now, let's dive in a little bit to more of this free agency frenzy. We've talked about it before we came on air here. Running backs seem to be back in trend, CC. You're a former running back. I'm going to let you have this one, but it seems like the running backs are back.
man. I think every position's got to take its turn to get that depreciated value. You know, my son let me know it's the safeties now that are going through the same thing. But man, everybody knows that if the football's a two-dimensional offense. If you can't run the ball, you don't have that bell cow, you don't have that big play explosive guy, then it's not fair to the quarterback that you're trying to develop or that Super Bowl chance. So I think that everybody went and got that puzzle piece they needed. Everyone's a little leery of the old backs and how much legs they got on them because we all know the cliff is very sharp of the fall off. But with Derrick Henry moving, with Pollard getting picked, I think everybody's adding that last piece that they need to their offense. So I'm happy to see it back. I'm happy to see Henry get $9 million guaranteed first year, and I think it's a $70 million 2-year joint. And then Saquon got the money he wanted too. So I'm happy they're getting paid because those guys are explosive players, some of the best in the league. So I think we're turning the corner.
Well, what I think it was is that you know how the league is that they did an absolute overcorrect, is that they saw teams being successful but not having to pay running backs, 15, $16 million like somebody gave Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, and teams were being successful. So then all of a sudden owners and GMs start saying, oh, you know what? We don't have to pay running backs anything. And they went so far the other way. And then it turned out, oh, no, wait a second. We actually do need these running backs to be successful. You
Yep.
got to have a good running back. I don't care what your offense is. Again, look at Mahomes. Look at the 49ers, the 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying Pacheco is a big money running back, but the guy's pretty good, and they
Yeah.
ran the football successfely with him. So
He
you
served
gotta
as a
have
bell
running back.
cow. He served as a bell cow when they needed it.
Absolutely.
Remember, I had the surprise player in the Super Bowl as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, hoping he was coming out of off the bench, and he never touched the ball. So I was wrong on that one. But yeah, Josh Jacobs making moves. I mean,
Yeah.
Tulsa native right there. I was excited, and they went early, and they fueled the excitement, got everybody's hopes up. So it's still the people's favorite position. They don't want to admit it, but it is.
Well, the thing about the running back position is it goes back to the test of time, and that's what people can't get over. They want to think all these analytical stuff and play analytical nerd football, and throwing is better than passing. But when it comes down to it, when you need to win, what do teams usually do? They run the football.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, running backs aren't getting more money than
No.
than previous running backs. Like nobody got a $15 million deal.
Nope.
Nobody got $16 million. They just got deals. You
They
know,
got
and that's the
deals.
thing. They weren't getting them before.
They got some deals. They got some multi-year deals, and they got some guaranteed money, which at that position you need because, again, it's high impact, right? So, a little guaranteed money never hurt anybody.
Exactly. We got a little poll down here about will Russ cook. Looks like Russ is going to do a little cooking in Pittsburgh this year. Russ is going to cook a little bit. Okay?
Folks, he took the fourth most sacks last year, and I don't know if that was the Denver offensive line
It was.
or Jared Judy not getting open. So
It was him too.
if anybody wants to jump in that poll and come back with me, I've come off of Russ on the grill. I had Russ as it was Uncle on the grill at the fourth, and now I don't think Russ is cooking anymore. I'm sorry, folks.
Just stop. Let Russ cook, okay?
Okay.
He's
Okay.
gonna be fine in Pittsburgh. Everything's gonna be fine. Here's my thing. You know how upset I have been the last 2 years trying to deal with baby hands Pickett. You
Yes.
know how football Sundays have not been fun for me. I think they're gonna be fun for me this year. Now, if Russ comes out there and lays an egg, then that'll be something else. We're going to burn Russ's kitchen to the ground.
Oh yeah.
The bottom line is he's cooking. He's going to cook.
He's going to cook. He's going to take that 1 year minimum deal and get on out of here.
What other free agency stuff besides running backs? Anything else that you see that's wild that's out there? The one that I can see real quick, Brian Burns got traded from Carolina to the Giants and then got $150 million for a guy that's only had one season over 10 sacks. They act like he's God's gift to the defensive end position. I'm like, I don't know, man. But it's the Giants, and we know the Giants, their organization is garbage.
Right. Well, I mean, let's count the ways and the way they've screwed up. But I don't get that. And I think that's the next position to see a little bit of a recession is the pass rusher, because I think that these really creative OCs are taking these guys out of the game. And then a lot of them have a whole bunch of quit in them, right? So you saw, I think Buffalo parted ways with Von Miller. I know he's not who he used to be, but I think they're going to look back, and that's going to be one of the most highly regretted moves of this year. So,
yeah.
My opinion.
You're exactly right. It's craziness. It's crazy.
I'm sorry. Speaking of regrets, paying Baker Mayfield a dime is a regret, and I know he played well, but I mean, I'm sorry. How many times can he do it to us? Baker Mayfield.
It's a team-friendly deal, though. We've talked about this a million times. Owners and GMs and teams paying these average to just above average quarterbacks all this crazy money, and lo and behold, they ends up biting them a year later, like the Giants again with Daniel Jones. They didn't do that. 2 years, $50 million guaranteed. It's a 3-year deal, but he gets $50 million in the first 2 years. That's a team-friendly deal that you can live with Baker Mayfield.
$50 million
guaranteed. Guaranteed over the first 2 years. It's not that.
The only thing you can get, I don't know if you've ever seen the favorite pro team by state, right? And Oklahoma doesn't have a pro team. Their favorite pro team is wherever Baker went, right?
Right.
And so the only thing you get is a little bit of fan base from Oklahoma, guaranteed 2 or 3 bad throws a game, and a lot of blaming everybody else when it goes downhill. So I don't think I want to pay $50 million guaranteed when that's the only thing I get returned on my guarantee is that right there.
You want a division. Now, granted, it's a horrible division, but they won it. Then they went and won a playoff game. I mean, and were competitive in the second playoff game against the Lions. I mean, and he played well. That's the thing. It's not like Baker played bad. He didn't. He played well. You got to reward that, and you might have found something with Baker. And I think Tampa did. I think they did.
I have found a consistency of inconsistency, and I'm not going to reward that. He's got to do more for me. I'm sorry.
But that's just bitterness because of the Cleveland Browns saga. I mean, but you're a Browns fan. And the problem with being a Browns fan, literally, the problem with being a Browns fan is that you're a Browns fan. That's the first problem right there.
I got a friend that uses a slogan that always says, "We can smell our own." And I remember how excited Cleveland was and how many times that's happened to us with, Manziel and every time we get the first pick. And I just smell the same thing. And it's hope. And hope is the most dangerous 4-letter word, in the English language. And I see it. And Tampa, I'm sorry.
I got you. I understand. We got some people in the chat asking about Josh Jacobs. I don't know. I mean, I like the move with Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's going to Green Bay, and they got rid of Aaron Jones. Do you like Josh Jacobs more than Aaron Jones? The reason that I do is because he's more healthy. Is that
Yes.
Aaron Jones, every time you look up, the guy's hurt.
Yes.
So, yeah, I like him better. I think it was a good move by Green Bay.
I don't know if Jacobs is the best, pass catcher out of
He's
the backfield.
That's another issue. He's not. He's not as good as Jones.
Let's be honest. If there was anybody cooking last year, it's Jordan Love. So
Yeah.
I want to carry all that momentum, and I don't want to go back to a stagnant, run on first down, offense. And so I wonder if that Jacobs move is going to prove to be a little bit more predictable of their offense than, because you remember they bombed Dallas out of that game, and I don't think anybody saw it coming.
No.
And I think it was because you didn't know what they were calling next, and that's a huge advantage. And I think you paid Jacobs. He's in the game. He is a great pass blocker. He'll pick up the blitz, but he ain't gonna get you some check down catches. He's got stone hands.
No,
so,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Here's a good one from our friend Rebecca Elledge talking about Swift, DeAndre Swift. Here's the thing. I have no idea what the hell the Bears are doing. Why on earth would you pay DeAndre Swift all that money when literally they could have waited an hour and a half and signed Aaron Jones, who's better than him, for less money? Why in the world? That's why Chicago is Chicago, Chris. They just can't get out of their own way. Terrible.
Yeah.
I don't get
it. Yeah, I don't know. They say never argue with fools. Trying to figure out what Chicago's doing is a huge waste of your time. So I saw that. You explained it to me, and I said, is that just them being who they are, right?
Yes.
If it was any other team, we'd say they must know something we don't know. Swift is the healthier one coming out, or
no
he's
way.
He's I know that he's made some commitment to return to being super explosive. Whatever it's going to be a team friendly deal. I don't know, but it's the Bears being the Bears. It is what it is. It's why they will be, if they could relegate teams in the NFL, they would. So
Swift, Buddy Claiborne says DeAndre Swift is hot garbage. I don't know.
Hot garbage is a hot take.
That's a little strong. That's aggressive. Yeah. I mean, my goodness, he's not hot garbage, but I get it. If you're a Lions fan and he was always hurt with the Lions, then all of a sudden he goes to Philly and wrecks shop. I get it. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, that's an interesting poll right there. Who landed in the best spot, Henry, Jacobs, or Barkley? And nobody picked Barkley?
Yeah, the people aren't paying attention. Come on now. I mean, they got they still have one of the best lines in football, and somehow Barkley is not in the best position? What are we doing?
I mean,
here?
You never want to criticize your audience, but the 5 people who voted on that may not be the 5 smartest people watching this show.
I do think Henry going to Baltimore is big. It is absolutely big.
Here's what I don't understand. I mean, yes, there's going to be a huge focus on the fundamentals if you play Baltimore of can you fill gaps and tackle. But I don't know if the wing T coming back to the NFL is going to be as deadly as everybody thinks it is. I mean,
So no faith in Lamar throwing the football. You're one of those.
I don't have any faith in Lamar throwing the football, and it's not Lamar's fault. I told you, other than the driving downpour that they didn't do a good job of showing last year in the playoffs, the play calling was absolutely terrible. It was not in Lamar's favor. Now they got Derrick Henry lining up at 9 yards off the line of scrimmage coming downhill. That gets addictive to hand it to him when you don't know what to do because it makes you look like a genius when he busts one. Pause. But I don't know. I don't see that offense being as dynamic as everybody hopes so.
I think it will be. I think it's going to be okay. I mean, I know a lot of people keep saying that Derrick Henry's not good, and if you run the read option because he's got to be going downhill. And my counter to that is, why don't you just run the pistol, or use the pistol and run the read option out of that? You can absolutely do that and play action. Guys are going to be running wide open. Yeah. I mean, if they can run the football, like they're going to be able to run the football. Whether you think that Lamar Jackson can throw the ball or not, he can throw to wide open guys, and guys are going to be running free.
He can, but man, the read option. Let's assume that everybody made it to the NFL not because they're just big, strong, and fast, but because they can be assignment sound. And then you got an old running back, which I got faith in. Let me say that. And Lamar, I mean, you're gonna pick between the two of them for 30 hits a game, 15 apiece. I don't know if that's the way I want to go try to win my Super Bowl. Maybe they should have made some upgrades on defense, because I felt like, I know it's terrible to say that about the Ravens. I didn't think they played great D in the playoffs. I know everybody's gonna make their joke there, but that's what cost them. So I do like Henry landing there. Saquon got the better landing spot in my vote.
I mean, we're going to move on, but I'm going to remind you, in the AFC Championship game, they didn't give up a point in the second half. They only gave up 30, or I think it was 60 total yards in the second half, and 32 of them came on the last pass play of the game. So the defense was fine. It was Lamar and his passing and the play calling that cost him in the playoffs.
Agreed. I do have to address Curtis Johnson asking what's up with the sunglasses.
Yeah.
Curtis, I don't have all my screens here, so I don't want you seeing me looking at the comments. So my eyes are all over the place. And before you think I'm going Stevie Wonder on you or having a seizure, I'm going to put some glasses on. This is for the people, to protect you.
Hey, there you go. Ooh, look at this. From our old man, Ryan Fike. Sunglasses help with the glare off that receding hairline. Brutal.
Yeah, I've known Fike for I guess 30 years now, almost 25 years. And he knows the hairline hasn't gone back. It never was very far forward. So it's actually a stagnant. It's like it's a stalemate. It's like a World War II trench warfare up there. World War I trench warfare. It isn't going back, Fike. It's holding steady. But I appreciate that.
But keep coming with the comments, Fike. I don't think I know you. I appreciate that more than you know. Let's move on, people. Let's move on. So this is wild. And there's this crazy trend going on right now on social media. Started on TikTok. It's gone TikTok, Instagram. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. We are done with 90s basketball. Done with MJ. MJ was garbage. Terrible. Everybody from the 90s is terrible. I'm just trying to figure this out. Everybody said, well, MJ couldn't go left. And then posting these videos of him not going left. And then people counter that and they show literally a 1-minute clip of him doing nothing but going left. What do we think about this trend, Chris?
So I got a couple takes before I even get started on this, because I'm a huge 90s basketball fan. So number one, though, is asking the kids of today to look at the 90s. It's the same thing as asking us when we were their age to look at Bill Russell. And so we look back at that grainy black and white footage and the collection of stiffs and some plumbers and electricians out there. Respect to my dad, who's an electrician who could flat ball, but every other electrician out there. And you're like, it was a competition. So when you go back to the 90s and occasionally you got Craig Elo Garden, Michael Jordan, nobody knows that he was a great defender. All they see is a 6'6" white guy who can't run and jump with Mike, and they bash the whole generation. Asking them to look that far back is a stretch. It really is. So that's my first take, is we're asking them to look back at history. We're going to be more fond of it than they are. The second take is those were superstars. When you talk about Barkley, Jordan, I know you guys hate when I say it, but Dominique Wilkins, one of the greatest scorers of all time, Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon, you've got a handful of stars. In today's league, every team has a star. And so these kids think they just grow on trees and we only had 6 stars and they have 30. No, our 6 stars are as best as their top 6 people in the league. Like when they ask LeBron, who can't you stop? And he's like, Giannis, KD, myself, like Joel right now. There's still 5 or 6 superstars. Just the bums get so much more love now that it's a watered down superstar league. That's my take on it. I don't think that they are more skilled. In fact, all of the coaches are saying they're less skilled, especially in passing and defense. Yes, they have a left hand and they have a million and more finishes on their layup package. But you know what? In the 90s, you had to dunk on somebody and you weren't always getting the call. When was the last time you saw a good traffic jam in the NBA? Except last night, the guy who dunked on Wemby. But they're rare. They were every night back then. So there's my fuming take, and I'll challenge. I'll take anybody in the comments on this. This is crazy.
Well, the problem is that they changed the rules. And when you don't have a 3-second, or when you do have a 3-second rule that guys can't be in the paint, well, there's going to be way more space. So guys are driving to the hoop. In the 90s, you couldn't just do that. Guys
Right.
were standing in the paint. Now, they didn't have as many shooters in the 90s, but and also you got to remember, Chris, here's another thing. In the 90s, they had a player on the court that was called the Goon. Like kind of
Yeah.
like the goon squads that we have, in
Yeah.
the comments here. That's part of us, the goon squad. They had goons on the court, like a Charles Oakley or a
Right.
Rick Mahorn, that served no purpose other than to protect the star of their team. And if anybody drove in the lane, they macheted them.
Right.
And literally, if you got killed, okay, you got killed. Sorry, I killed you, but get him off the court so we can keep playing the game. That's kind of how it went if you're driving to the basket in the 90s. So you're 100% right about younger generation. When they look at those games, they're like, oh man, people couldn't do that. But the fact remains, you take the top 5 or 6 guys in any era of basketball, and they could play now, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in any era of basketball.
Yeah.
We've got to stop this. Oh, well, those guys couldn't play in this era. Yes, they could. The stars absolutely could. Now, where I'm going to push back is we're going to put Dominique Wilkins in the top 5 or 6 of best players in the night. We're going to stop doing that.
No. One of the most special scorers of all time, the Achilles and then obviously living in the limelight of Jordan hurt him. But let's get one thing, out of the way of who couldn't play in whose generation. Everyone's like, oh, it wasn't as physical. I don't know if you've seen this 90s basketball. They said it was physical, and it's really not that physical. No. That goon was to protect your star and hack the other star one hard foul a game. Correct. So let me ask modern day basketball, all of these kids, other than those elite 6 that cannot be stopped, right? How many of the rest of these so-called superstars would even go to the bucket? Right? The 90s basketball turned them all into jump shooters, and half of them aren't very good jump shooters. So stop it. Steph survive in any league is a generational talent. We got that. Giannis, 7 foot, can handle the ball. I'm not going with the top 6, but this watered down the rest of everybody as a star. First of all, Paul George, Kawhi, Russ, Westbrook, James Harden. James Harden got a whole bunch of quit in him. He can't play in any league. All those guys, the rest of those guys are hurt. So just because they sell a lot more jerseys now from different teams and different colors, the basketball is basketball. And then D. Howard said in there, they're more skilled at dribbling and finishing. Pause. But dribbling, there's no stat for dribbling. There's not.
0.
The best fast breaks I've ever seen, the ball never touches the floor. So these guys want to pound it into the ground. Again, pause. But it doesn't get you any stats.
I have been trying to tell people that forever. Everybody always says, oh, man, look at his handle. His handle is outstanding. And my question, and always my retort, is always, the goal is to get to wherever you need to get to on a basketball court. Does it matter if you dribble 11 times behind your back, spin around 6 times, dribble between your legs 15 times to get to the same spot? No. If I can dribble 3 times with my right hand to get to where I'm trying to go, that's the end of the story. Who cares if you can dribble between your legs? Who cares? I didn't have to dribble between my legs to get to everywhere that I wanted to go. That's what basketball is. Being able to do whatever you need to do on the basketball court. Don't talk to me about, somebody's handle. I don't want to hear it. I don't care.
And here's the thing is, last time I checked, triple threat position was pass, shoot, dribble, right?
Correct.
These kids dribble they can't just catch and shoot unless they're the stretch big, which replaced the goon, right? They can't just catch and shoot. They have to dribble first. They don't even know where they are on the court unless they, slap it into the ground. So no comparison. Freaking Ant Edwards for 30 is insane from somebody in the I mean, absolutely insane. He'd be hurt week 1. I mean, you look what they did, that the bad boys did to Jordan. Get out of here. This kid, first time in the world, he hit his head on the rim. I mean, stop. I'm done with it. That's insane.
Yeah. My thing about it is, and I've been saying this, and people always push back, is that, first of all, this comment, I got to bring this up. Buddy said that Jaylen Brown is just a modern day Neek. That first of all, that could be one of the most outlandish statements that I've ever heard in my
Hey,
entire
if
life.
there's a fraud of the week stamp we can put on that
Oh my
comment,
God.
I mean, you just ban that guy. That's
Jiminy
insane.
Christmas. I mean, there is nothing about Dominique Wilkins is 100 times the player. And you know how I am about Dominique. He's
Yeah, I
100
know you're
times
a
the
hater.
player of
You're a
Jaylen
hater.
Brown. Give me Jaylen Brown. Speaking of can't go left, Jaylen Brown can't go left right now. And he's got the biggest contract in the history of the NBA. Let that sink in, people. When you talk about we're done with the 90s, the guy with the biggest contract that's ever been signed in NBA history can't dribble with his left hand.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
And let me see him in the playoffs,
Oh
and
my
I'll tell
God.
you if he. I mean, he's just flat out disappeared. I mean, he's like that really thin hotel toilet paper. You
Yeah.
know, it just disappears when you need it. You know, and what do you get left with, everybody, when your toilet paper disappears? Right,
Woo.
exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's Jaylen Brown. I can't even. Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah, I'm the 90s is just fine, people. We're not done with the 90s. We're not done with the 90s.
Yeah.
We're
Our
not
show
done
just
at all.
may not be for that generation. You know, it may not be. If you didn't grow up on Sega Genesis, some NBA Live, you know, it may not be for them. If they want to say tween, chicken wrap, lay, pause. I mean, that's not a basketball move. How many points did you score? And they yell and one. So you know I go and play at the rec when my son comes home. And they yell and one if you just are near them when they hit a layup. Like let alone if you touched them or it would have been called a foul or it had anything to do with the shot. And one, you're like, it's not how that works. So
somebody needs to give somebody an and one right to the chest. And
exactly.
Talking then. So
exactly.
Here is a question here. Rank Magic Johnson among today's NBA players. Top 5. 50%, top 10, 33%, top 20, 16%, and top 50, 0% with 12 votes. I mean, and Magic Johnson at his peak. Now, I don't know. People are going to get crazy, but Magic is better than any of these point guards that are playing.
Not better than Steph. Not better than Steph. I'm sorry. But does Magic get modern day medicine? Because Magic's athleticism left him early. And we're left with the second best, now that Steph Curry is, I'm sorry, he is. We're left with the second best point guard of all time who lost his athleticism at like 21 years old. So please stop with the madness and the Magic hate. If he has where we can go in and zip up a meniscus and platelet therapy, and like some of you guys thought last week, juice with LeBron, Magic Johnson is easily in the top 10 basketball players, you know, in modern days. So
now, just a quick reminder here, people. I'm going to throw this out here. Please don't take offense to this, but I do believe that Magic Johnson is receiving some modern day medicine. We'll just let that go. I'll let you take that wherever you want to take it. But I think Magic is receiving some modern day medicine. Maybe not for the knees, but for something.
Yeah.
For something. I don't know.
It's untraceable right now. Untraceable, and he's closing in on $1 billion. I'm not saying that I'll take the infection, but I might risk it. You know.
Now you're just being nasty. Just we got to move on.
We don't know how he got it. Transfusion.
You're right. We don't.
I got to dial it back. My dad learned to comment. I've seen him in the comments. So
there he is, right there.
Yeah,
my man. You can't compare eras. Impossible. See that? Stop comparing eras, CC. Your dad said so.
That's a guy who's seen every era of basketball, so I'm going to take his word for it. He was watching the NBA Finals on tape delay. He never, it never fails to tell me that. So he's been watching it a long time. So I'll give him that. It's a different game.
Let's move on, people. This crazy Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. I don't know.
Oh, Jesus.
So here's the thing. I saw this online, and I'm kind of a believer in this. If the fight's not rigged, does Jake Paul die in the ring? If the fight is not rigged to where, you know what, I'm going to get, because this fight is going to make $1 trillion. And if he hasn't guaranteed Mike like $50 million or something, and he says, just fight me, does Jake Paul get killed? What happened?
It's an exhibition. Let's stop getting excited. This is where they've roped us in. Everybody of our age is throwing fight parties. We're back. Boxing is interesting again. We want to see Mike Tyson of old. This is an exhibition, just like Mayweather and Conor McGregor. This is not Mike going out there to do what Mike used to do. He's done a million in interviews, and he's not even the same guy since he, found some religion and some medication. This is an exhibition, and you've seen the rules. Headgear is allowed for Jake Paul. He's allowed to tag his brother in once during the fight. He's doesn't have to make the weigh-in and can use PEDs. Mike has to make the weigh-in, can't use PEDs, can't use headgear.
Right.
I mean, it's insane. It's an exhibition. Yes, I will watch it, and I hope Mike gets his money because the guy ran through $400 million, before he was 21. So I hope, we give him his flowers and his money, and he's safe out there because he's 57. My goodness.
Yeah. I mean, look, I like Mike Tyson. Do I think Mike Tyson is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time? No, I don't. But I love Mike Tyson. I think he's great. But I am done with this Jake Paul phenomenon or whatever we want to call it. I am over it. Never thought it was any good. Never involved. And if we are watching the fight, we're watching it at your house because I can't have it in my house. We're watching it at your house. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. It's just going to be ridiculous. Look, all the rules that are in place. I mean, at some point, are people going to wise up and just say, this is all a joke? I mean, did anybody not watch the Netflix special when his brother just says he's tricked everybody into thinking he's a real boxer? It's almost like nobody cares. What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, even if you watch his training footage, first of all, he's past the age that you would want to start learning these skills.
Absolutely.
And even on his PED regimen, it doesn't look as quick as a kid that I had a boxing match at work with. So it's a joke. But you know what? If it brings Mike $50 million, I'm all right with it. There you go.
Unbelievable. Let's look at this. So Darren Howard says this is celebrity deathmatch MTV style. I'm serious.
I think that they want us to hate him, and that fuels it, right? Everybody's been waiting for Jake Paul or his brother to get knocked out, right? Like, that's all we want is somebody put this guy to sleep. So now they put him up against 57-year-old Mike Tyson. By the way, they have, 7 or 8 heavyweight champs younger than him that are still available.
Correct.
My God, 57, that are available, but they need him they need the biggest draw and the most eyes and the most amount of hate. But it's going to be a paper tiger. I'm out.
Yeah. See, I'm out too. We got another poll here. Are you watching the Tyson Paul fight? 63% of people say yes. 36 say no. I'm not doing it. When is it? Oh, you know what? We're going to be on vacation, aren't we?
I don't know what this we is, but
able to watch it. We're going to be in the DR. So you know what? We saved ourselves. We're not watching it. Good.
I'm gonna find a place to watch it down there during my. I'm going to the DR for a Brazilian butt lift, and while I'm in the doctor's office, I can watch the fight.
It's an odd place to get a Brazilian butt lift in the Dominican Republic. That's very
cheaper.
Odd.
It's cheaper. They do it other places. It's just a technique.
Huh. That's interesting. Very, very interesting.
Rebecca said it's in Dallas. No, we understand the fight is in Dallas, but I believe it's on Netflix, and we will not be watching.
Yeah, no, we're not watching any of that. I can't do it. Can't do it. So let's move on lastly. And before we do, let me just say this again. Thank everybody for showing up and being here and supporting us, man. We love doing this every week. The show is still growing. It's still in the infancy stage, but we appreciate everybody coming here. Remember to like, subscribe, but more importantly, everybody, y'all do an outstanding job of commenting. Go ahead and do us a favor and comment once the show is over. Go comment over on YouTube because that's what helps us with the algorithm and sends it everywhere. So we appreciate you guys doing that. So last topic of the evening, man. NIL. Is it good for college sports? Is it good? Do we care? Do fans care? For me personally, I think it's good, but they got to make some restrictions. They got to put some stuff in there. to make this thing normal. Now, the one thing that I will say, and I'll just say, I heard some bullshit today from Nick Saban talking about his wife says the kids don't care anymore. All they care about is how much money they got. Well, his
Right.
wife was sitting back cashing a big fat check that he was receiving, and she didn't say anything about that. So I don't know why she's talking about why players can't get anything, because I don't remember Nick Saban taking any pay cuts to keep coaching at Alabama.
Exactly.
I don't
The
remember
high,
that.
the highest paid person in every state is the college football coach, right?
Exactly.
What NIL did, last year was the Power Five put $677 million back to the kids. So is it a good deal? Absolutely. Does it need some tweaks there? When I see some people saying it's ruining college football. Well, it's ruining the nostalgia and the pomp and circumstance and the dominance of Alabama every year. It needs some tweaks. There needs to be some commitments from the kids, either 2 or 4 years worth of commitments, and there needs to be something set aside. I couldn't imagine how much of a target I'd be with a Lamborghini and $700,000 in my pocket in Manhattan, Kansas. Right?
Correct.
That's not safe.
No.
Or do these NIL, these contributors and sponsors need to put equal amount of money back for the kid once he graduates or once he turns 21 or in some sort of growing fund? I'm all for that. But giving an 18-year-old a Phantom, a Rolls Royce Phantom, and $500,000, one, your life is never going to be better. I don't care what you go on to do. A free Rolls Royce Phantom and $500,000 is going to exceed your ceiling, at least financially, anywhere else. So I don't think it's fair to these kids to not put something back and not have a requirement of them. But as far as just sitting around and letting the coaches and the NCAA make the money and then freaking PlayStation and everybody else cash in, no, that's crazy. I had 2 season-ending surgeries, in my time in Manhattan, and I got my medical bills paid, right? And everybody, oh, you got an education. All right, you're right, I sure did. now that I'm 46, let's cost average that and say maybe there should have been a little gravy. So that's my take on it, buddy.
Well, here's the thing with NIL. Look, we all know that it needs to be tweaked some. There's got to be some restrictions here or there because it's getting crazy. Having said that, you can't tell me that letting the athletes get a piece of the pie is a bad thing. Now, here's the pushback, Chris, that people always give is, well, the smaller schools can't compete. And my question was, when could the smaller schools ever compete?
Right.
And nobody cared then. I go, so why does everybody care now? It's like the smaller schools. And I don't mean like the lower division schools. I'm talking about, if you're talking about an Alabama against, I don't know, let's just say San Diego State or even lower. Smaller schools like that in smaller Division I, they can't compete. Well, they could never compete.
They could never compete.
I go, so what are we talking about? I mean, well, the money that they can get is just the money that those guys already got. It was just they did it illegally. Now they do it legally. I go, none of that changed.
You're still going to get better talent at the small school because that kid who didn't get an offer from the Power Five or from a contender and is like, well, I guess I might as well go start my own contracting business. Wait, I can get $50K to go play? All right, that's better than I was going to make, and I still get to play football. It's going to elevate the game. There just needs to be some holdback. I'm not saying for the schools, probably for the kids. I need to shout out Jason, though, Brian, for probably the funniest comment of all time with the Chappelle Show quote there. But, I think that holding it back for the kids is really the only thing we need to talk about. The programs don't need any more money. Trust me, they've got all the sponsorship. They've been putting those banners up. Little Apple Toyota made money when you and I were in Manhattan.
Correct.
Right? Free banner off anything that happened over near that sidelines. You got to go pee in a water bottle? Better be right in front of the Little Apple Toyota sign. So we're getting free air coverage over it. Come on.
Yeah, it's just wild. Here's the thing. And I know everybody, or I shouldn't say everybody, the people that push back on athletes get enough, the education is enough. I would listen to that argument a little bit if athletes were able to work. Because right now, people say, hey, you get your education paid for. And I say, well, okay, but I don't have any money. I don't have any money to spend. And they say, well, neither do other college kids. So they got to get student loans. You're right. But I'm not able to work. You won't let me go get a job.
Right.
If I'm able to go get a job, then there's no argument to that. You can't fight back to that. But when you
Also,
tell me I can't work,
yeah,
but then I don't have any money, then what do you do? And I'm the perfect example of that because my mom was a teacher.
right.
And while teachers, she wasn't broke, but she didn't have thousands of dollars to be sending me every month for me to do anything. I go, so the little scraps that she was able to give me, okay, I made it work, but I couldn't go get a job. So now you're telling me I can't get any money, but we also won't let you work. Well, then what? I mean, that none of that is fair. That's all I'm saying.
So I think they can work now, but we couldn't. But I think the problem was you couldn't make money off your own image and likeness. That's my biggest problem is, okay, you can't work, but wait, I can't go, sign a jersey and give it to a kid, or I can't go read at a school or anything like that because you own that and you get to put it in a commercial, put it in a highlight film, put it in a get hype video. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Correct.
come on, that's crazy, misuse of things that you didn't even create. So I think that there's some regulation needed before one of these kids, something bad happens to them because they got a $250,000 chain and they just walk outside of
Right.
stadium and the USC stadium. But I think some regulation helps, but I definitely think it's a good thing. There's got to be a happy balance. So
here's a good question here is that Sharp says, how does it affect the team when you got the big boys making huge money and other key contributors make fractions? Why don't you ask that to an NFL team? Because it happens
right.
every single day. I go,
Right.
so the quarterback, he could suck. For instance, Daniel Jones sucks, but he makes $40 million a year. They just
Right.
got rid of a running back and wouldn't pay that guy, and he basically made the team. So,
Right.
I mean, it happens in every single job all over America.
Well,
There's
and
guys
in
that
that
make
case,
more than other guys. That's not an argument.
and in that case, Saquon Barkley can go do a Campbell soup commercial and
Correct.
a Progressive insurance commercial, and Daniel Jones can't because he sucks.
Exactly.
But the
They
old
can
way
make
in
up the
college,
difference.
you couldn't even go do that, even if you were, the hometown favorites. How many kids did we play? Maybe walked on and then got a scholarship. And like, all right, they're Manhattan natives or hometown favorites or Kansas natives. They can't even go out and use that to do a football camp back at their town. That's
Right.
what my biggest problem with it was.
Well, and also the problem is, and NIL and the transfer portal are tied together. I mean, they are. And Nick Saban coming out and say that today, it just made me laugh because his problem, he's lying. His problem is he can't stash 5-star recruits anymore
Right.
and just
Right.
keep rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding. He can't just stash those guys on his bench and just, it's just like a
Right.
factory of football players. Now it's, you know what? If I came here and I'm not going to play, I'm leaving. And don't get me wrong, the transfer portal's got to change. They could change that quickly by just saying you get one free transfer, you can't get another one, or you can transfer again, but you got to sit out, period, end of story,
Right.
unless you actually graduate. That gets fixed overnight, but they won't do it, or they get sued if they try to do it. So it's crazy, but I don't know. NIL is never going to be bad in my eyes. I just saw, and again, it's not just me. It was all of us, Chris. We all hung out. We scrapped together
Absolutely.
to get money to eat Pizza Shuttle, or we wrote a check to eat Pizza Shuttle. But we'll move on from that. But either way, we didn't have anything. We had no pot to piss in, and we saw people getting money out the yin yang off of what we were doing. It was crazy to me.
Yeah, no, money out the yin yang, pause. I don't know what you did in your spare time at those Fort Riley, those seedy establishments. But Darren's right. It is what it is. Why, when the money swings to where people don't want the money to swing, does it become such a big deal? Maybe this is just the come-upsons or whatever it's called. Like, maybe this is just the way the pendulum swings for right now. Because the same people saying this is an insane amount of money, college kids, are the same people saying, I'm not sending my kid to college, and they're devaluing the degree. But then they're saying, but he's getting a college education. Well, but you don't need a college education because the good old boy network at Texas A&M that I went to, I can now get you, into this industry without you even having to go. Exactly. They're the same. You just can't have it fair. And I think it's super ironic that whenever it swings, pro athlete, pro poor guy, pro-controlled by the people that is when it becomes a problem, you know?
That's exactly right, man. That's
So it may
exactly
just
right.
be, it is what it is. Before we go, though, I want to remind everybody, CC won his first poll last week, okay?
Hmm.
Because I know that Darren's going to throw it up there. You're not going to be ready. And guys, I'm looking to go back to back. And there's going to be something special in it if I do win it this week. Just letting you guys know.
Well, and I've also got something to say about that. Is
Okay.
if CC happens to win this week, this poll, we're just going to shut down the podcast. We're just going to shut it down completely because it won't be real. If you happen to win, it won't be real. We'll be the Jake Paul of podcasts. We will be fake, and it'll be absolutely ridiculous. So just keep that in mind, people, when we start voting here. Keep that in mind
I think
about
I got
what
my
we're
fingers
doing
on the pulse of the people. I do.
What
I think I got my fingers on the pulse of the people, Brian. They need me.
I mean, I don't know if anybody needs you, including your wife, but we'll throw that out there.
Fair enough.
Buddy Clay, let's see this. Buddy Claybon, CC is getting my vote.
Yes, we
I've
couldn't
got
have
a
thrown him
punch
out,
in
right?
the chest waiting for Buddy Claybon if that
Yeah.
happens. I've been threatening that for 3 years. It'll happen, though. It'll happen. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens. This is, and again, a lot of this that we're talking about, all these comments and these topics and stuff, people are talking about this all the time. So that's why we keep bringing these to you, people. I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining. We're having a good time. A good time.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're in Wayne, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Wayne, Pennsylvania. Tell everybody what Wayne, because they don't know. We keep bringing it up, but they don't know. Let the people know what Wayne, Pennsylvania is famous for.
Well, I did not know this, but I went to an open house for a builder we had out here. And let's just say that Wayne, Pennsylvania is where old women go to drink wine and damn near attack you if you're under 50 years old. So me and my marketing guy, who's also named Chris, barely made it out with our lives. I mean, it was night of the living dead out here. It was crazy. So Wayne, PA is they need to get the National Guard and start putting some of these cougars down. There you go.
I mean, well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm guessing next week or just the next time you go out there, we probably should do instant replay. You need me out there. I will protect you. I will keep them away, make sure you're safe, and we'll do the show live out there, and I'll scour the grounds and make sure that there's no cougars anywhere to be found. That way you are safe. How about we do that?
I appreciate that, man. I really do.
And we got the poll up. Unfortunately, people, this will be one of the last instant replays that we do. 66% CC, 35% Big B. This is ridiculous.
And look at the vote count. We're getting more and more voters. Yes, we can. I think a famous president ran on that platform. Yes, we can. We got him out to vote, and we got 14 votes. Guys, I want you guys to check out the swag that's coming next show, because now, 2-time champ. I'm on my way to 3-peat. That makes it a dynasty.
Do you see, people? Do you see? This is what happens when you do what you do. This is what happens. This is what you got to live with.
Right. Ryan, it didn't matter. Ryan, it didn't matter. You missed the vote. You wouldn't have been enough to swing it. And I think you were pro CC anyway, Mr. Elledge. So thank you.
This is ridiculous. Unbelievable. All right, people. I appreciate everybody out there. Again, remember to like, subscribe, pass the word. Please comment outside the show in YouTube and let everybody know we're still growing. We're still doing big things. We appreciate everybody's support. Aloha.
Yeah. See you guys. And we get to everyone on YouTube, so comment on YouTube.